Yeah, but see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
I will answer one of the first question. You answer the second. I answer the third. They are done. So the first question: which of the following triggers should you use to write code that checks the value that the user entered? Here we are validating what the user has entered. So when we are validating, we use what you call on validate trigger on that field. So here I will go with is D. That is the next question. I'm going to read it and you give us the answer. Which event type defines a formal contract with the promise that the signature of the event does not change in the feature release?
The feature release. Just a minute.
Which event type defines a formal contract with the promise that the signature of the event doesn't change in feature release?
Okay, I'm trying to remember what was it, but between integration event, I think it's integration event.
Let me say that. I will show you the answer after. So here we have which snippet is used to create an event subscriber. Event subscriber, that is the event
Event in
sum.
it. Is it sub?
Init subscriber.
Oh, subscriber. Sorry.
That is an event. When you are using the event init, you are creating an integration event. But if you want to subscribe to an event somebody created, you have to use to subscriber.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Also, let's first to do this and we shall come back to the second question. So this one is good, this one was wrong. Here we have two events. We have business events and you have integration events. For integration events, if you subscribe that, the person who raised it can go and change the parameters or the signature for that event. Remember, we have some parameters in that event. So for an integration event, doesn't guarantee that the parameters won't be changed or the signature. But for a business event, that what guarantees you can even use it in third parties. You can use it in third parties, subscribe to it. You are sure that the parameters won't change. So here it was supposed to be a business event.
Oh, okay.
Also, it is like on after post document. So on after post document, you know that event, you just have to put in the document you have posted and what you have created. So like those actions, you are guaranteed that one won't, the signature won't change. So that one you can use it for third parties. But for an integration event, the signature always changes. And if you look at the events we subscribe to, most of them are integration events. I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Just again share and we go to interfaces. Maybe before I go into what I had presented, if I go to my extension, I'll just go into my extension. Yeah, but see my screen.
Yes, I'm able.
So when I go to the Explorer and I want to view per type, we have these objects that you are aware of: tables, codeunit, page, report, query, XML port, page extensions, profile. But there is also another one called interface. I'm sure most of us have not used it, but it is there. Interface, you see the interfaces that are there already. These are the standard by Microsoft.
Yeah.
These are all the events here. So if I check for one, like I got this one, price, I'll say price calculation, I got source. You see, this is how an event is.
An interface.
Yeah, an interface is structured. It doesn't have an ID number. It only has a name. You say interface, you define the name of that interface. Then here you define the procedures in that interface. As you can see here, there is no logic. We don't have any logic in our interface. For us, we define what action, what process you want to do. The logic will be written by the code unit. So I just wanted to give you this overview before I go to my presentation. Just going to again to go to my PowerPoint. So here, what I hope you're able to see my screen. So if I can continue here, as you able to see my screen.
Yes.
So here we have interfaces. An interface is an application language in a smart contract that defines a set of required capabilities in bracket method signatures without providing the actual implementation code. That's what I showed you in the Visual Studio Code. Just defines the methods or the procedure, but doesn't give you the code. The core concept. The what, not the how. An interface declares what an object must be able to do, e.g. calculate tax, but leaves the specific logic to the objects that implement it. Just say the procedure is to calculate tax. It puts in the parameter that you need, also puts in maybe if you have a return value. Then once it is done, it doesn't define the logic for it, defines that procedure. Non-executable. The interface object itself contains no code and cannot be called directly. It must be implemented by a code unit. So you would ask yourself, if your interface is there, where do we write the code unit? So you have to define a code unit, and in that code unit, there is what you call, if you say code unit 50,000, maybe calculate tax for LST. Then you say implement. There's that keyword implement. Then you define your interface that you are implementing. So that's how we define our procedures in an interface. Then from the code unit, you're able to implement that interface. Then define the code unit, define the logic in that code unit. There's something that is, I think we shall reach that. Why do we use interfaces? It is part of my presentation I will show you. And also you see how it uses the extending that functionality. So we have this one, compiler enforcement. The R compiler ensures that any object claiming to implement an interface provides all the required methods. The quick fix also code action can automatically insert missing methods. So here what they are saying, if I have my interface has 5 procedures or methods, a code unit that is implementing that interface, it must have all those 5 procedures or methods. It can't use only define one and if the rest has to have all the 5 procedures. The rest you cannot put it, you can ignore to put in the logic, but they have to be in that code unit. So we have another part called key components. Interface object declares the name and the procedure signature. You put the name, you put the procedure signature, those are like parameters. Then you put, if there is a return value, also define it there. Implements keyword. Used on code units to link them to one or more interfaces. That's what I was showing. When you go on the code unit, we say implements. Then you implement that interface and use it. Interface variables. Variables can be declared as an interface type. allowing them to hold any object that follows that specific contract. So will be explained more detailed later. Then there is this part. There's one part, one word I want first get a definition for before I continue. I'm just trying to get the actual meaning of polymorphism in programming. So we have if you go here under my presentation, I'm saying interface benefits and polymorphism. So if I go into my Google and I type in the polymorphism in programming, the meaning they say is a core object-oriented programming concept allowing objects of different classes to be treated as instances of a common subclass, enabling one interface to represent multiple underlying forms. If to break it down into more, we can have one, let us take as maybe our interface with a procedure called calculate tax. It can be our main class, but that one can be used to calculate taxes for different organizations. That's why they're saying you can use that object and use the instances like the subclass of that, like, how can I explain the instance? If you have done object-oriented, maybe in Java, C++, even in Python, there is where you define your class. Then after you create an object of that class, you create a second object of that class. So Microsoft is trying to implement that logic of polymorphism in also in the R language. If I go back to here, they say interfaces enable polymorphism, allowing developers to swap business logic dynamically without changing the core calling code. They allow it to always change the logic. Maybe if you have, let's say we are calculating tax. We are calculating tax for LSAT, we are calculating for payee, we are calculating the excise duty. I can have one interface that says calculate tax. It has parameters, it has a return value, the actual tax that it calculates. So for me, when I have those different taxes, when I can say calculate, I have different codings that have the logic for those different taxes, but all of them call the interface of calculate tax. Then we have strategic advantages. Decoupling reduces dependence on specific implementation details. The main application does not need to know which coding is running, only that it follows the interface. I will also show you that in detail, but also one of the other advantages they said I was reading, if I say I'm calculating tax for different shipping companies, they may have different ways they calculate their tax. So if I have my procedure to calculate shipping tax, if it is FedEx, it has its different logic. If it is maybe Nation Media Carrier or something other different shipping companies, they have different way they calculate their tax. So if I have to write it in one procedure or in one code unit, you'll find in my code unit I have a lot of if maybe this the company is this, you run this logic, else if it is not, is another company B, you run that logic. But with interface, I'm able to define the logic for calculating shipping tax for FedEx. Also, I'm able to define the logic for calculating shipping tax for another company without me using the if. And also it is easier to change in the future. If I have a third company that has come in, it is easier to incorporate it without affecting the previous logic I had written. So that's one of the other advantages why interfaces are used. I think it is a new concept. I don't know the actual version it came in, but is most people have not utilized it, but would be useful in the near future. Then we have the core reuse, simplifies the reuse of logic across different modules, extensibility, new implementations can be added, e.g. a new shipping provider without modifying the original base code. Then we have the functional workflow. How does it flow? Create the interface with the necessary method signatures, create multiple code implementers that use the implements keyword, provide different logic versions, or use an interface variable to call methods in polymorphic manner where the specific behavior depends on the object assigned to that variable. These are snippets and basic implementation. Something I wanted to show you. We go any further. Something I had prepared here for this presentation for the short time I had. So we have the concept. I want to show you in the actual code how it runs. We can go in Visual Studio and do the actual code, but here it has some of those basic, how it is practical. I'm just going here on the practical example. We are still using our shipping providers. Imagine you want to calculate shipping costs. You may have different logic for DHL and FedEx. So we have the step one to find the interface. This establishes the contract. Any codeunit that wants to be a shipping provider must have a calculate rate function. So this is our interface. We say interface. I is for shipping. That is the name, but can always to follow the standard way you have to use I for the to mean interface, then put the interface name. So we have here interface I shipping provider. Then we have calculate, the procedure called calculate rate, takes in weight and has a return value of a decimal. So that is our interface. You have defined it. We don't put any logic. We don't put anything in our interface. Then we have step B, or second step. Create the logic. These are code units. We create two separate code units that implement the interface of our shipping provider. Since we have two providers as our shipping agents, we are creating two code units so that each code unit has its own logic and is attached to one of the shipping agents. That one also helps us if we get a third shipping agent. It means we are not going here to modify what is existing. We shall just have to create another coding that has its own logic for implementing how to calculate the shipping costs. So here we are saying this is a code unit for 50, 100. This is for DHL handling. Implements, this is the keyword that you have to put. Implements shipping provider. Then you have the procedure. Once you put in here, we call the procedure from this interface. It just comes out, then we put in the logic in here. So we are saying for DHL, you are saying it is the weight times 5. DHL charges $5 per kg or 5 shillings per kg. That is for DHL. And that's their calculation. For other shipping agents may have different calculation. So here we are putting our logic as simple as that. So this is our logic. Then we also create a separate code unit for FedEx handling. It is the same interface. What changes is the logic. Under here for the logic, for FedEx charges 4.5 per kg plus $10 as the base. They have their, don't mind about these numbers, but shows they have their different way of calculating the shipping rate or the shipping costs. Then once you are done with defining your code unit, we have what you call connect them via enum. interface is also using the enum, which is also, I think most of us should have got used to the enums and now how to use them instead. Even when you got those extensions you have, if you try to use an option, they will tell you this one is being depreciated. So now what we are using are enums, which are easy to extend, and I like option fields which are hard to extend. So here they also connect them to the enum. So this is where the magic happens. We use the implementation property to link the enum value to the code unit. So here what I'm saying we have the shipping type. These are like our shipping agents. Each one of them we have here, we attach. If I say I call this enum, attach it to that interface, the implementation, it will take what I put in here. So here I define my shipping types. These are usually like our shipping agents, DHL, FedEx. So I'm saying implementation is equal to I shipping provider. This is the interface, is equal to DHL handling. This is the code unit for handling DHL costs, how to calculate the DHL costs or shipping costs. This is it. Then we have the second value. We have implementation, the same interface, but the different code unit for handling the calculations. So here, what they are also looking at, if I get another provider, another shipping agent in the future, I just come and extend this shipping type enum. I add that shipping agent. I create another code unit that has its own logic of how to calculate rate without me affecting the existing code. Then once we are done attaching those code units and enum to those the code units and the interface to the different enums, then we have the part how to use it in code. So I've attached it. How do I call these code units? How do I call these enums? How do I use them once I reach the point of calculate? Now, yeah, just saying, instead of a message case statement or if statement for different options, now we just write, we have our procedure. Maybe if you are on the purchase order, you can put an action called calculate rate. So when you calculate rate, we have this procedure that has the logic. Here I have the shipping type, which has to be passed in this procedure. Then I have the package weight. Because the weight we use it as a parameter in our calculating of the rate. Then we have the return value that you can use to update anyway. So here it has the var, we are still defining our interface. Then we have the enum automatically picks the right code unit. In here, I'm not defining which code unit, the logic that should run, which code unit is going to run. What I'm doing, I'm saying this interface I shipping, I'm attaching this shipping type to the interface. So I'm not defining like you call this code unit and run the logic in this code unit. No, since I've mapped my enums to those different code units, now I'm just, once they pass in the shipping type, maybe if it is DHL, I also assign it to this shipping interface. Then I run here, it is just, you can put other logic in here, but since we have the small where we are just putting in, we are exiting here, we have return value of a decimal. I'm saying this I shipping, which is my interface, dot calculate. This is the procedure I want to access. Then I pass in the weight. What the system will do, it will go to this interface, look for the code unit attached to this ship type you are putting. If there's DHL, it will run the code unit that is attached to that enum. If it is FedEx, it will run the code unit that is attached to FedEx. Then this weight, the package weight, it is what we define here in our interface, here as our parameter, and also our code units what they use as here to calculate the rate. So in here, I'm not defining any code unit that the system should use. For it is will implement the right the right logic based on how you have connected your enums with the different codings that implement that interface. So from here, it has a return value that you can use anywhere in your work. And just to have a practical part of this, I don't know if time allows, because I don't want to start and I stop in the middle. Magua, should I continue and you go to the VS Code?
Yes, please. I can continue.
Okay. So since I have my code, I will just copy and paste and we just see how it works in the interface side. So the first part I do, I have to define my interface. I have my code unit here. See if I have any interface here. I'm going to change this and I put there my logic I have in this example. So this is my interface defined, no logic inside. Even if you try to put in the logic, the system will error. So this is how I define my interface. The next part is define code units that implement that interface. So yeah, I defined one, but since I've changed the interface, it is having issues. I'll just define the first one for DHL. For DHL handling, so I go here. I'm going to rename this. So if I say T code unit, I put in my ID. I put in my ID. Then I define my code unit, DHL handling. Then I say implements. Then I say it implements our interface, which is iShipping provider. So if I come here and I say, if I come here, you see what it's saying, DHL handle does not implement the interface member iShipping.calculate rate. So if I do like this and I don't put in that procedure I'm implementing, all the procedures in this interface, the system will complain. That's the first part. If you remember, I said if the coordinate has to be implementing all the procedures in the interface. There is a shortcut. I don't know if I still remember how to get all those shortcuts. So I'll just, if I go back, here once it is complaining, I'll just go into quick fix, I say, implement interface. It just brings all those procedures in that interface. We have this part. So here I'm just going to copy this logic in here. And I put in here for, that is the logic giving how that we are calculating the rate. I'll copy this and I do the one for FedEx handling.
I could have missed this. So the name of the procedure should be exactly the same name as the other thing you specified in the interface.
Pardon?
The name of the procedure that you define here in the coordinates that implements, should it be the exact name as the other one in the interface?
Yes, it has to be the exact.
Okay.
If you change the name, if I change the name here, let me first comment out this. And if I come here and I change the name here, you see what I'll put? You see what brings an error here this side? When you say implements, for it to know that this interface has this procedure. So in your coordinate, it must have those procedures those procedures extended or implemented from the interface. Let's go back here to FedEx handling. And I'll bring the calculation for FedEx. So I'm done with adding the logic for the two shipping agents we have. From here, we just go and create an enum. I want to create an enum for my shipping agents. Let's create a new one. I say 50, 100 is shipping agent dot r, and I say enum, give it an ID. I'm going to say it is shipping agent. The first one I'm going to say it is FedEx, it was DHL. The second one is FedEx. Then here I have to say implementation is equal to I gave it a different name. Just say
At the top, you need to implement. The enum name must show implement. Shipping agent implement.
Yeah. About that. My shipping provider. I have data, so I have to put the one for FedEx. Implementation is equal to FedEx handling. So these are our two shipping agents. So if you come in future and you have another one, you can always come here and add other shipping. You can always come here and add other shipping agents. So if I try to extend my, let me say, a purchase order. Purchase order extend. Purchase order. Page extension. Purchase. Where did I put? Set page extension. Then I say, give it an ID. This is purchase order extend. And this is the purchase order card. Purchase order, we don't have card, just called purchase order. This one is already taken, I'll use that one. So I'm going to add an action. Add after approvals, the action, calculate rate. In here, just promote it. promoted through image. So go to calculate promoted category. Give it those parameters. So here I will define my procedure that calls the other one. Let's copy it here. As we don't have shipping type, we have shipping agent. Even here we have iShipping. So this is my procedure called get total cost. So here I will have to have a field on that purchase order that shows which shipping agent is there. So if I come here, just call say shipping agent is an enum called shipping agent. And I want to add it here on the page, add after status. I say it is field called shipping agent. Give it a caption. It is editable. So on my action here, I have to test. I will add another one called a package weight. This is a decimal. Then I come here and I also add it. Also give it a caption. Because I have to give it application here since I will publish to the cloud. And another one I need to get to have another one that stores the total cost. I say it is. This is also a decimal. So try to add it here. Give it a caption. Give it application area. Make it editable first. So here on my action, I have to, once I have to put here, call this procedure. I even have to say total cost is equal to this procedure. I pass in my parameters. So the first one will be the shipping, the ship type or the shipping agent. Pass in this value. Then the second one will be the package weight. Pass in that. Here I have to say if shipping agent is empty, please specify. Yeah, first rate. If shipping agent is equal to shipping agent, the logic has gone. For now, just want to put some control, but let me just ignore it. This is enough to get what I wanted to show. So once I'm done, let me just publish this. So I will go to my purchase orders. I'll go. Purchase orders. Right, open this. So here the current one is called FedEx. If I put 10 and I click on my action called the calculate, where are you? Where did I put my action?
Put it after approval.
After approvals, did I give it application area? That's why it is not appearing. For the cloud, if you don't give it application area, it won't appear. Let's publish again. Order was this 10001. Come here and open my purchase orders. Open this. I'll give it 100. My action is here. So once it is DHL and I say calculate, it gives me 500. If I change this to FedEx and I say calculate, it gives me 460. So it is implementing different logic for different shipping agents. Hopefully that is clear. I think that's it for now, Mago, on my side.
Thank you very much, Alan. This has been very, very informative. And so say an indicator that whatever we are doing currently, we are just passing on the surface. But there's a lot that we need to learn and utilize in the system so that our code becomes better. So besides passing the exam, I think this is functionality that we also need to bring forward in our applications. Yeah, thank you very much. This has been very, very good. Guys, I know most of you joined late. The recording is there. Get time, watch the recording, and also make more research about it. Thank you, and I wish you a great day ahead. The meeting has taken 30 minutes.